Thank you for downloading Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. In this episode, Sam and I dissect our Game 2 win against the Pacers. We touch on LeBron's performance, Ty Lue's starting lineup, tinkering ability, KLove's injury, and look ahead to Game 3 on Friday. One final thing, if you're a fan of the Cleveland Browns, check out our Browns podcast, The Orange is Oranger. I'm joined by Browns insider Jeremy in Akron, and we bring you the very best Browns coverage and analysis. We are the premier Cleveland Browns podcast. Check us out at Orange is Oranger. You can find that anywhere you listen to podcasts. And a couple days ago, we had Nathan Zagura, the one and only, on our pod to talk all things NFL draft. It was a great episode. Check it out. You don't want to miss that. Again, at Orange is Oranger. Okay, here it is. Sam and I with our Pacers Game 2 recap and Game 3 preview.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
That sound means it's time for Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. I'm your host, Chase Smith, and with me, Cavs insider, national NBA writer of AmicoHoops.net and his new NBA website, ProHoopsDigest.com, Sam Amico. Sam, what's up, man?
Not much. How you doing, Chase?
Good. How to get that Pro Hoops Digest blurb in there. Can you tell us a little bit about that new website?
Well, first of all, I'm glad you got the name right, because when people have been asking me, I've been calling it ProBasketballDigest.com, and I'm getting the name of my own website wrong. It's called ProHoopsDigest.com, and on AmicoHoops.net, we've been running, obviously, not only Cavs content. The Cavs are our bread and butter, but we've been running a lot of news and rumors and stuff throughout the league. And it got to the point where we were kind of mixing and matching too much. So we started this other website, which is primarily NBA content. There will be some Cavs stuff on there, but we're treating the Cavs as a national team on that site, whereas AmicoHoops.net treats them as a more of a local team.
So if I wanted a Chidi Usman profile, I would look at Amico Hoops, not Pro Hoops Digest, right?
There you go. Right. And if you wanted a Carmelo Anthony profile, which I don't know that anybody would want anymore, but if you did, that would be now fall under the Pro Hoops Digest banner. It's just an extra site to give us more room to run even more coverage of pro basketball.
Sounds great. So let's jump right in. Game 2 was last night. Cavs come away with a W, 100-97. The Bronze stat line goes something like this: 46 points, 12 boards, 5 assists. He had the first 16 points of the team, 29 at the half. Sam, you were there at the game. Did it look as dominant in person as it did on screen?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was, that first quarter, I think, what was it, game 1, it took him 10 minutes to take a shot, to attempt a field goal. Last night, or, in game 2, it was, 16 seconds in, he took his first shot, and then he had 4 shots in 3 minutes, connecting on all of them. Really came out very energized. The entire team did, and you could just feel the energy after that first quarter, or during that run in the first quarter in the building, was much more intense, much more energy from the team as well as the crowd.
The Cavs won by 3, and it makes it look closer than it was, although the last couple minutes made you a little nervous. The largest lead of the night, I believe, was 18 at one point.
Yeah.
Really, the Cavs were in control much of the game. Sam, what did you like that you saw the Cavs do in game 2?
Come out with energy, which is the opposite of what they did in game 1. It makes you wonder, where was that in game 1? But I think it was more than that. They defended pretty well for the most part. The fact that, let's not kid ourselves, that Oladipo got into early foul trouble made it easier for them to defend. But they did a good job of that for the most part in the first half. In the 2 games, they've definitely defended better. And toward the end of the regular season, they were defending a little bit better, which isn't saying much because they'd been so bad up until that point. But I think more than anything, here's a team that really doesn't have a ton of playoff experience when you're talking about guys outside of LeBron. You're talking about Hood, and Clarkson, and Nance Jr. They're still kind of feeling their way around the playoffs, and that's very obvious. But I thought in game 2 they played a little bit, I don't want to say harder, but they played smarter and made better use of it. And they came out with some focus and drive and energy. Those were positive things that you can carry from game to game, even when the shots aren't falling. So hopefully they learn from that and continue that in Indiana.
Yeah, that energy was definitely visible on TV. The defense intensity was definitely turned up a bit, which was also evident on TV. There were a couple times where they really pushed the Pacers to the brink of that shot clock, and a couple times the Pacers were bailed out by a lucky shot or by a really cheap foul that the Cavs would happen. I would still like to see the Cavs work better on their closeouts. I felt like a lot of the second half is when I felt like the defense kind of slipped, and which makes sense when the Pacers started coming back. The Pacers made a lot of like driving layups or like these acrobatic reverses, or you'd like to see that kind of not be as much of an issue, but you got to like the direction that the defense is going. It's only taken 84 games, but you know what I mean? It's whatever it takes, I guess, is kind of the slow, which is a really weird slogan for the Cavs.
I found that that's it. It is weird. But I think part of that too is when you get up, this team has a terrible tendency of either getting down big in games like they did in Philadelphia, falling behind by 30 points. They put their pedal to the metal during certain stretches of the game, as opposed to just bringing it all game. And I think part of that is LeBron, and nobody expected LeBron to keep up the pace that he had in the first quarter. I think that was probably part of the issue. It's like they really overdid it in the first quarter, and it's like, hey guys, stretch that out over the course of 48 minutes, and don't go hog wild in quarter number 1 and then quarter number 3 just kind of go through the motions. And that's really been this team's issue all season, particularly, frankly, Chase, under Ty Lue. I don't know. You can't blame him for team not having as much energy, but that seems to be the style that they've been playing under him. And you have to wonder, is he getting through to them, or are they not taking him seriously? Or is he not mentioning that? Like, hey guys, make sure to stay, keep your foot on the gas. I don't know what the problem is, but it's been very exclusive to Ty Lue.
I had to laugh when I saw the report that he wasn't releasing his starting lineup until just about game time. And there goes Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy tinkering at that lineup to the very last minute, right?
Well, yeah, I think that, and that's one thing, we haven't touched on, is that starting lineup, which is obviously was strange. But, it's hard to tell because LeBron went nuts and so early. It's hard to tell how well that lineup actually worked, because it really was just 4 guys hanging out around LeBron. Yep. And this time, I assume in game 3, LeBron's probably not going to do that again. He's probably not going to, go crazy like that. But then you're going to find out, is this the lineup that works best for them? I did think J.R. Smith, while I was not in favor of him starting, I did think that he did a pretty decent job in frustrating Oladipo there early in that first quarter before Oladipo got those 2 fouls. I thought that they were really aggressive with him, and I thought JR was a big reason why. But
and you had that big steal and layup in the fourth quarter that I think really helped seal the game there. That was a huge play.
He did a nice job, I thought. But I also think that he spent too much time in the third quarter doing what he did as a starter all the time, which was during the regular season, run up and down the court, and not really, he was just kind of out there. So,
and let's talk about J.R. Smith for a little bit. Sam, I have a toddler, you have a 1-year-old, and I feel like his attitude this season is when he doesn't get his way, he just pouts and he loafs and he just, I don't know.
Or he throws soup.
Or throws soup, right. And it's so evident when he's having his little tantrums on the court. He's just not engaging. And I don't know if engaging J.R. Smith is worth having to deal with the pouty J.R. Smith. Does that make sense?
Yeah, look, the guy played his best basketball of the season off the bench. Okay, he played his worst basketball of the season and among the worst basketball of his career this year as a starter. Now, granted, he was an important part as a starter during the last 3 runs to the finals. Well, he's not getting it done this year as a starter. But he's getting it done from time to time off the bench, which is all you want from a guy off the bench, to get it done from time to time. Of course, that's all you can expect. Of course, you hope that they can, JR would come in off the bench, score 15 every night. But if he gives you 15 once every 3 or 4 games, well, that's what bench guys do. So why you would move him back into the starting lineup is puzzling to me when he'd been doing so well off the bench. He's the one guy that you could really count on, other than maybe Korver, coming off the bench. So I was surprised by that move, and I don't know what Larry Nance Jr. did to not be allowed to start anymore, because, boy, could they really use him. Because I don't want to keep going here, Chase, but Miles Turner's been working over Kevin Love. He has outplayed Kevin Love in this series. Why not give Larry Nance Jr. a shot at him, move Kevin Love to power forward so that Thaddeus Young, a smaller guy, has to defend him, and change the face of the series by going a little bit bigger.
If Ty Lue's strategy was to scare the Pacers about announcing Kyle Korver as a starter, I don't know how that fared for us moving forward. I mean, Kyle, he played 9 minutes in game 1, starts and plays 30 minutes, plays crunch time minutes down the stretch. And he's one of the greatest NBA shooters, active NBA shooters, and historically as well. But crunch time 5 guy, I don't know, Sam. I don't know.
Well, I thought Korver had a good game, very good game in terms of not just making he was 4 of 8 from the field, all 3-pointers, but I thought that he was, one of the hustle guys. He dove on the ball, dove on the floor for a loose ball. He took a charge. He
had a strip in the fourth closing minutes too.
That was big. So I thought that he played a very good all-around game and wasn't just a sharpshooter. But again, here's a guy that played, 4 minutes or something in game 1?
I think it was like 9 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. And then he plays 31, which, and I said this the other day on the podcast, if we're confused, imagine how the players feel. Like, well, why did I only play this much in this game, and now I'm out here this much? Now, they're always going to be happy when you play more minutes, but then you're wondering, am I going to go back to playing the 5 minutes next game, or am I going to play 31 next game? Am I going to start? So I think that Ty Lue's confusion on what lineups to use has been troubling, because then the players go out there confused and not sure when they're going to get pulled out of the game, getting frustrated when they get pulled. There's just a lot of issues are starting there with the coaching staff.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to make it sound like Kyle Korver had a bad game. I thought he had a great game. He super fast release. He'll shoot the ball no matter how he gets it. I think one time the ball rolled to him and he picked it up and launched it, and it was just really, really like he's locked and loaded, man. But
few guys in NBA history are as good at squaring up to the basket quicker than he does. He gets his shoulders squared to the basket so quickly. It's amazing.
And I think another thing that doesn't help, Sam, is seeing the Pacers know exactly who they are. They know exactly what each of their roles are.
Yes.
And you can tell that by the way they play, how they move the ball on offense, and their like transitions on defense. And the Cavs do not have that, because they have no clue who's going to play and who's going to start. Like, it's so like, oh man.
Yeah. Well, the Pacers are extremely well coached. Number one. They are all certain of their roles. They're not changing the lineups all the time. Now, I mean, because of some injuries and situations and trades, in fairness to Ty Lue, that he did have to make some lineup changes and stuff. But his lineup changes have been perplexing, to say the least. Mm-hmm. And Nate McMillan with the Pacers has been, a long time coach, been around a long time. And you're right, watching them, when they lose games, it's because it's not because they're not giving effort. It's not because they're don't know what to expect from each other. They're a pretty well-oiled machine. They're losing games because, frankly, sometimes they're just overmatched talent-wise. And, the Cavs should be able to overmatch them, but have not really done that except for the first half. And, and I put this in my column on Amico Hoops. You really look at this series so far, the Pacers have outplayed them in at least 5 of the quarters and probably 6.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Heading back to Indiana, the final kind of story out of Game 2 is Kevin Love's injury. Sam, do you have an update on the same hand he broke earlier, correct?
Same hand he broke, his non-shooting hand, left hand. His thumb got bent back. There's ESPN reported that there's a partial tear of a ligament. The Cavs did x-ray his hand last night. Those came back negative. He's expected to, he said it was painful. They didn't, nobody gave an official diagnosis other than Ty Lue saying he just jammed it. He'll be fine. He's ready to go for game 3. Kevin Love said same thing. It's going to be sore tomorrow. I'm going to put some ice on it and we'll tape it up and let's go with game 3. So it doesn't sound like he's going to be out, but my goodness, some guys are just injury prone. I'm sorry. Some guys just are. And, you have to wonder about their pain threshold and all that, but it's just, I don't want to say he's not hurt as bad as every time, but constant fear of that guy getting injured.
It seems like it's a mix of bad luck, being at the wrong place at the wrong time, and just, definitely something to keep our eye on as a series and the playoffs move on, as Kevin Love's health stats for sure. There's no doubt that they're feeding him the ball intentionally. He got 16 shots up, and they're doing all they can to get him involved, to be a part of the game plan.
He's got to take advantage of that because he has not emerged as the true number 2 option, and he's got to start taking advantage of that a little bit more.
We have game 3 is tomorrow. It's Friday, 7 p.m. on ESPN in Indianapolis. Sam, what are some trends that you liked, what you saw from the Cavs, you'd like to see continue in game 3 if we want to come away with a win here?
The energy, for sure. This is a team that plays, and most NBA teams could make this claim, but the Cavs are so much better when they're focused and energized. The problem is sometimes they can win when they're not. So sometimes they don't feel the need to do that, and it comes back to bite them. But, if this team can play with show the same type of determination that Indiana did, or in the Cavs case, show the same type of determination that you did in the first half, and keep that going for a full game. Don't wait until you're far behind. Don't stop when you get a big lead. Keep it going. Sustain it. If they can do that, I think that's a very positive sign, and they will win this series.
Yeah, one of the things I'd like to see is the Cavs take care of the ball better. There were a couple possessions, important possessions, especially in the third quarter when the Pacers kind of made the run to come back, where the Cavs didn't take care of the ball. They were dribbling off their legs. They were inerrant passes. And playoffs, every possession matters in the playoffs, and you cannot have against a good team like the Pacers who take advantage of these turnovers, of these missed free throws. Like, those come back and they haunt you, and all of a sudden you're up 3 with 30 seconds left, and you're like, oh no, Darren Collison has another wide open 3. Is he going to make it? That was that's where we found ourselves last night.
Yeah, right.
And against well-coached teams, you cannot do that. Well,
yeah, and you're right. In the playoffs, you have to take care of the basketball, and that goes back to the energy focus thing. Yep. When you're not playing with focus and you're just kind of out there kind of going through the motions because you have a big lead, you're right. That's when the turnovers start taking place, because you get careless, you don't pay attention, and you lose focus. And they can't do that in this series. And if they get past this series and get to Toronto, they can't do it then either. No.
Do you expect the same starting 5 for game 3, Sam?
I think if you're Ty Lue, you probably do roll that same starting 5 out, because you're 1-0 in the playoffs with it, and that doesn't mean that that's the right lineup. It doesn't mean anything other than, I know if I'm a coach, I play and give it. I will give him credit in one sense, Coach Lue, in the sense that he has been giving guys a quicker hook than he did in the regular season in these first 2 games. So if it doesn't work out, but then maybe he'll make a change. But frankly, my starting lineup, I would start Korver. I'd be fine with that, and I'd start Nance because after watching 2 games, I think Kevin Love would fare better against a smaller guy than he is against a bigger athletic guy in Miles Turner.
He's longer too, longer arms too.
Yeah, and it's. I think that Kevin Love does okay offensively against Turner because he can bring him out to the perimeter, which Turner's doesn't like that, but he can't guard him down low, and he can't go down low and post him up. So I think Larry Nance Jr. is the most athletic guy on the team other than LeBron, and he can He's got size, he's got strength, he's got energy, he's got hustle. And the numbers show that Larry Nance Jr. plays his best when he's on the floor with LeBron. So why not start him out there in the series? I think the matchup is screaming for it. That said, I do think that he'll stick with the same starting lineup.
Yeah, I'd like to see Jose Calderon get a couple more minutes. I thought he, brought a lot of good things to the table when he was in game 2. He had a couple. There was one foul, like at the very end of the shot clock. I think it might have been the quarter. Like it was no one even touched the guy. Did Quicken Loans erupt? I mean, we were at B-dubs.
Yes. Well, especially they always give you that. The replay on the jumbo
super quick when they know it's in your face.
Right. Oh man, the crowd went nuts. But yeah, I thought the thing I liked about Calderon the most in that game was in the first quarter when LeBron was taking all the shots. They which he should have been. They passed it to Calderon. He just shot it like twice. He didn't even think about it. So I was like, good. Somebody else is playing like LeBron. It's like, let's do this. Let's be aggressive. Yeah. And I thought Calderon was being very aggressive. I thought JR was being aggressive off the bat too. But I think that, hey, he's a proven piece and been doing this a long time, Calderon.
All right, so last question about Game 3, Sam. Aside from Oladipo, who's the one player the Cavs need to limit on offense if they are looking to keep them? The Cavs, honestly, they've held the Pacers below 100 points both games, which I think is a pretty good, trend in the right direction. If they want to keep that defense, who's the other player they need to kind of keep on lockdown on offense?
Well, I would say Darren Collison, but they've done a good job on him for the most part. LeBron's been guarding him a lot. But to me, it goes back to Turner. I think Turner has gotten, especially early in Game 2, kind of had his way during that comeback when the Pacers started to cut into that lead. It was really a result of Turner. And I think that they need to find a way to contain him a little bit in terms of making him uncomfortable down there. And I don't know that Kevin Love is the answer to do that. That's why I keep, preaching Larry Nance Jr., because I think that Nance Jr. is a guy who's obviously matched up with him. So Turner to me is a big concern. I think if you're the Cavs.
And I think moving forward, Turner's kind of in the nowhere near the class, but I think he's in the Joel Embiid mold, like that tall, athletic player that the Cavs just don't really have an answer to.
No. I think again, you got to match athleticism and strength with athleticism and strength, and I think Nance Jr. does that. And then of course, at some point, at what point do you say, okay, Jeff Green is not getting the job done at all? He's not rebounding even, which he never does. But at what point do we say, you know what, let's go with Larry Nance Jr. As a starter and then bring Tristan Thompson back, give him another opportunity, which is scary to say because Tristan had a career worst regular season. But at some point you have to say, if Jeff Green's not getting it done, we at least get Tristan in there and hopefully he'll go in and get some rebounds.
Yeah, do you have a prediction for Game 3?
I'm going to go with LeBron, simply because these are the type of games that, he loses Game 1 and everybody's kind of saying the Cavs are in trouble and blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden his team goes in and steals the first game on the opposing team's home floor. And I'm going to go with the Cavs. I think it's going to be really close. And I think it's going to be nerve-wracking. And I think it's going to be intense. But, I think if the Cavs get their act together, which they came closer to in Game 2, if you take that next step, you can beat this team pretty good. And hey, they were up on the Pacers, a different team with Dwayne Wade and all those guys, but they were up on the Pacers, 25-4 or something in Indiana, and ended up losing that game earlier this season. If they can get this right and come out with the right intensity and energy, they could build another big lead and win that. So I'm going to go with the Cavs in a very, very close one.
I will say the Cavs will win this one as well. I do think it'll be a close game, but I think the Cavs will win by a margin of 10 or more. I'm going to say 10-15. I think what the Cavs saw that worked in the first and second quarter They're going to try to replicate that. And again, it just comes down to LeBron being the best player of basketball on the planet. And I think we're going to see really some of our shooters come alive. They shot pretty well. They shot close to 40% three-point last game, which is great. But I think this is going to be the kind of other end of the spectrum. Like the first game we shot terrible. I think this game is just going to seem like we're not going to miss. And very similar to the game that we came back against the Pacers last year, where we just didn't miss a three. I think we start raining threes. And I think we're going to win by I'm going to say by 13. Win by 13.
Okay, well, I have that marked down for our next podcast, and hopefully they'll just win. Then everybody will be happy. But
yes,
they like you said, those threes have been there. If they knock them down on the road, that's going to create huge problems because then they can't focus on LeBron. So it'll be fun. This has been a fun series in terms of what's going to happen next. That has not gone completely as expected. So guess we'll see what happens this weekend.
We will see for sure. Well, we want to say thank you so much for downloading and listening. You can check out more of Sam's writings and thoughts on AmikaHoops.net and the rest of the league with ProHoopsDigest.com. Do us a favor, subscribe, rate, review our podcast on iTunes. It does help with iTunes search algorithms and other podcast native players for our podcast to show up whenever you search Cavs or Cleveland. We want you guys to be able to listen to the best content that we have. So rating and reviewing does help with that. Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. Another thing, we are looking for sponsors for this podcast, sponsorships for each segment, sponsorships for the podcast in general, for a presenting sponsor. If that is you, or if you know someone who has a business or an online venture and you think that this could work, email us at podcast@cavsonthebreak.com, or you can tweet Samurai and we can hook you up with what that looks like for those businesses and online ventures. We want to partner with you and get you business. So let's do that together. You can follow us on Twitter at Cavs on the Break. Follow Sam on Twitter at Amico Hoops. Sam, any final thoughts?
Nothing other than this weekend, I think, is going to determine a lot of what happens in the offseason. Because if the Cavs come back 3-1, down 3-1, when people are going to start talking about LeBron leaving and Ty Lue. But if they come back up 3-1 or it's tied 2-2, I think people start looking forward to the next round.
So no pressure, Cavs, but
none at all. Just the rest of the franchise history.
All right, Sam, thanks for your time today, man. Mike Breen, take us out.
Congratulations, Cleveland. Your decades-long wait is finally over. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.